Welcome back to the Jonestead. I'm Mary. Today is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. And today I wanted to talk about a report that Mark Zandi, who's the chief economist for Moody's Analytics, came out with that warns that 1/3 of the United States economy is in a recession. And you can actually go, if you want to look at a map that can give you can go to Market Watch, and they have an article about this on Market Watch, and you can get a visual map of the United States showing the breakdown of the states. Mark Zandi said states making up nearly 1/3 of the US GDP are either in or at high risk of a recession. Another third are just holding steady, and the remaining are growing. So you have there are 16 states that are expanding. So we'll start with the positive, and then we'll go backwards, so to speak. So the 16 states that are expanding, according to his assessment, are South Carolina, Idaho, Texas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, Florida, Nebraska, Indiana, Louisiana, North Dakota, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Utah, and Wisconsin. And on this map, I know it's hard for you guys to see this when I reference the computer screen, but those that are in expansion mode, those were the ones that are in green here. And then the second category was the 13 states that are holding steady, or also referred to as treading water, and that's in the tan. And those states that are holding steady, the 13, are Missouri, Ohio, Hawaii, New Mexico, Alaska, New York, Vermont, Arkansas, California, Tennessee, Nevada, Colorado, and Michigan. And then the 21 states in recession or that are high risk of being in a recession. And those he characterized as these are the states that lean heavily on farming or import or trade activity. And I'll talk specifically about Virginia a little bit more. But those are highlighted in red here on this map. And the 21 states in recession, I live in one of them, are Wyoming, Montana, Minnesota, Mississippi, Kansas, Massachusetts, Washington State, Georgia, New Hampshire, Maryland, Rhode Island, Illinois, Delaware, Virginia, which is the state I live in, Oregon, Connecticut, South Dakota, New Jersey, Maine, Iowa, West Virginia, and DC. And I was curious what the methodology was that he used to make this assessment. And he outlined it specifically and said the methodology used to come to these assessments was, and I quote, a subjective assessment based on various coincident measures of economic activity, including payroll, employment, and industrial production. If the preponderance of these coincident measures is exhibiting a persistent decline, then I consider it to be in or at a serious risk of recession. This is the same methodology used by National Bureau of Economic Research. He also stated, prices are already rising. You can see it in the data, but it's going to rise to a degree that it will be impossible for people to ignore. And Mark Zandi was in fact one of the first economists to forecast the 2008 financial crisis. And one thing to consider if you live in these 21 states that are in recession, are having very struggling economies, is one thing to really keep an eye out for, not in addition to job losses and increase in food costs and costs all around, but also your localities. Your governments are going to want to fill their budgetary gaps, and they frequently, or more often than not, are going to raise taxes as opposed to look for ways to cut their spending. Big shocker, I know. But from my standpoint, what concerns me, on top of that report, particularly living in the Commonwealth of Virginia, is that we are very strong when it comes to the AI tech sector. And in Virginia in particularly, the tech sector is estimated to be worth about $21 billion. So you have in Virginia also we're dealing with we have a lot of government employees that are being laid off, and we also have a lot of military contractors in the Virginia as part of our economy. So that aspect is going to be affected by downsizing, but also having such a high AI tech bubble to me is very concerning, because we're seeing more and more articles come out about with warnings regarding an AI bubble bursting. And Bloomberg specifically had an article titled "Why Fears of a $1 Trillion AI Bubble Are Growing." And it said, quote, "Yet never before has so much money been spent so rapidly on a technology that for all its potential remains somewhat unproven as a profit-making business model." And Fortune also had an article titled "It's Not Just Sam Altman Warning About an AI Bubble." Now Mark Zuckerberg says collapse is definitely a possibility. And this was that specific article. And in this article, and I know we're all huge fans of Mark Zuckerberg, aren't we? But anyway, he is very openly saying it's inevitable that you're going to see a tech bubble burst. And it says in this article, and I'm just going to read from it, Zuckerberg pointed to past bubbles, namely railroads and the dot-com bubble, as key examples of infrastructure build-outs leading to a stock market collapse. In these instances, he claimed that bubbles occurred due to businesses taking on too much debt, macroeconomic factors, or product demand waning, leading to companies going under and leaving behind valuable assets. The Meta CEO's comments echoed Altman's, who similarly cautioned that the AI boom is showing many signs of a bubble. When bubbles happen, smart people get overexcited about a kernel of truth, Altman told The Verge, adding that AI is that kernel, transformative and real, but often surrounded by irrational exuberance. Altman has also warned that the, quote, frenzy of cash chasing anything labeled AI can lead to inflated valuations and risk for many. The consequences of these bubbles are costly. During the dot-com bubble, investors poured money into tech startups with unrealistic expectations, driven by hype and a frenzy for new internet-based companies. When the results fell short, the stocks involved in the dot-com bubble lost more than $5 trillion in total market cap. So that is something we all need to be paying attention to and preparing for. And don't assume that everything is always going to be rosy, because the market just keeps going up and up and up. But the economy foundation is, I'm not quite see where it has any relation to what's going on in the stock market. And the United States, we're still our debt is still $37.5 trillion, continues to increase, and personal debts keep going up. And I just found an article this morning, and it talked about, this was the title, had me scratching my head, online holiday spending expected to rise 5.3%, fueled by debt. And I thought, well, what does that mean? Well, it says it says U.S. shoppers will spend $253.4 billion online in November and December, up 5.3% from 2024, according to Adobe Inc., with buy now, pay later checkout options fueling growths. So people are, instead of cutting back and not spending, they're gonna buy a $30 pair of shoes, and they're gonna buy it, and they're gonna spend 12 months paying for them. And heaven knows what the interest is gonna be on that. So don't get sucked into going into debt for the holidays. And adding more stress to your life is just my suggestion. But this is not a sign of a healthy economy or a healthy consumer. So I'm sharing all this not to be doom and gloom, but so that we all can be prepared, be aware of what's going on, and not just think that everything is just fine and dandy, because there are things that we need to pay attention to and be concerned about. And do what you can do to best prepare to protect yourself, because there are a lot of things out of our control, but what we can control is how we manage our own finances, and put some money aside, make sure you have food set aside, and Make sure that you are prepared physically, and maybe take self-defense or do some training there. There's a whole host of different things that you can do, be it martial arts, be it firearms, and also just training to be physically fit so you can defend yourself. Because as we're seeing our society, there's so much division and there's a lot of violence right now. And you really need to pay attention and be prepared to protect yourself and to be able to protect those around you. But definitely make sure if you're on prescriptions, make sure you've got backups for those, because we never know what the scenario could be. Whether or not you have if you have a bubble burst and you have a run on banks, you can't get to the bank, so make sure you have some cash on hand. Maybe don't keep all of your money in the bank. Maybe invest it in some precious metals. I'm not a financial advisor. Disclaimer, I am just passing on information that I've learned from other people smarter than me. And so anyway, I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Please subscribe, it's free. Subscribe, like, and share, and have a wonderful day. Thanks again for watching.